Okay, welcome to this third video on Unit 1. So today what we're going to be looking at is the British Esports Federation, which were until very recently the British Esports Association, so they've had a little name change there. Need to do a bit of research onto why that happened, but there's surely there's some technicality in there about why they had to change from one to the other. Okay, so far we've covered the DCMS, and we've covered the UKIE. So we're just we're not necessarily stepping down a level here, and the British Esports Federation is it's separate to the other two. It obviously operates under the DCMS because it operates in the UK. But one thing we need to set straight is, especially if you're a sports student, the British Esports is absolutely not a national governing body. They do not govern esports in the UK. Which is kind of strange, because if they were a governing body, it would kind of change where they stand with the DCMS. But also, it's kind of strange because the British Esports can set to the Commonwealth Games teams that we have. Whereas in football, for example, things like that are handled by like Olympic Committee, things like that. We've got quite a different setup. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go into who they are, what they do, have a little look at their website, which is another brilliant resource, and then we'll have covered sort of the main three key players for this first section on Unit 1. Then we can start looking at other stakeholders that sort of play a different role. So, British Esports then. Not a massive company, but they are a not-for-profit company. They operate with a limited number of staff that try to get quite a lot done. I've had the privilege of meeting some of them at events and things. They're a fantastic group of people, very helpful. And essentially their mission is that in the UK, they are pushing for esports to be its own thing. So I won't say it's a misnomer, but some people see esports and like, oh, esports is a sport, it should compete with football and rugby and all this, and it should fall under the same category. And no, that's not what British Esports wants. British Esports stands for to increase the awareness and to improve the standards of esports in the UK. And they want to do that with esports being its own thing. They don't want it to live in the shadow of traditional sport. They want esports to be its own separate thing. Let's have a look at some of the stuff that they're doing to help push forward the esports scene. So, you may have heard of this already. Your teacher may have mentioned it already. But one of the big things they do is the high level of support at the grassroots level. So they do the British Esports Student Championships. I've had the great privilege of competing in this in one of my teams. It was absolutely fantastic. And it gives students the experiences that they need to maybe move into industry. So they're really pushing forward for the grassroots scene for players to develop their ability, but also to give people the opportunity to do other roles like coaching, analytics, team management, and stuff like that. So they're really pushing to develop talent as early as they possibly can for different things. So that's the student championships. Another thing that they've done quite recently, or two things they've done quite recently, is they're building a performance campus in Sunderland. So I think they've found an old car dealership that's near one of the stadiums in Sunderland. I think it's like across the road from it. And they've bought it out, and they're going to be converting it into a big performance area where they will be using it for things like Commonwealth teams, for high performing teams, and for schools and things to come and visit. There's a big article on it here. I'm not going to read it to you and waste your time. I'll put the link for this in the description. Just like the UKIE website, British Esports website is fantastic. They've got lots of things going on. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is they're also doing a big push, like the UKIE, to push for women in esports as well. I think it's easy to say that if you do watch esports, I've been a big viewer of League of Legends and Halo for a long time. Female participation at the top level is basically non-existent, and that needs to change. For provided everyone's obviously got the skill level to compete at that level and not just by being female. So things that they're working on is this involvement in esports for women, giving them the space to feel like that they're not ostracized. Historically, there's been lots of issues with, if I'm sure if you're a girl who's watching this, you've probably had flack on Xbox Live or on PC whenever you've spoken, or in the past it was a lot worse than it is now. And so they're pushing really strongly to have like a good space for girls and other genders to be able to compete in esports in a space where they can enjoy it. And they're sort of really trying to play down this stereotypical idea of it's sort of a man's space, because esports isn't. It's about inclusivity. And so they've started this women in esports movement to help that going on very strongly. And obviously in the Commonwealth Games, we have got our female teams. Good luck to them tomorrow. And so everything from this end is all good. Finally then, we move on to education. So another thing that British Esports push for is the education and the awareness of esports. And the reason why you're probably watching this video is because you take BTEC Esports, and that would not have come about without the joining together of Pearson and of the British Esports Federation. So they have pushed for this BTEC Esports course to be the first of its kind. Hopefully the rest of the world will follow suit, just like we have sports qualifications and others. Esports will hopefully get more widespread across the world. And they host summits and things for school teachers and head teachers and other institutions to then check out what's going on. So they're really pushing very hard for esports to be made more aware of it, for it to be accepted in general education, which, if I'm not wrong, that has gone very well over the last few years with the participation of BTEC Esports across the country. And they're pushing for grassroots involvement as well. So, kind of similar to the UKE, but they are actually, the British Esports Federation is like the boots on the ground. They are the community driving force that wants people to be involved. They go out, they've got a big YouTube presence, as you can see on your screen here. They upload videos all the time. They're very informative. They can help people to set up their own esports streams. They teach you how to use things like OBS, stuff like that. So they have a very, very, very strong push for inclusivity, talent development at the grassroots level, both for players and support staff. And the last thing is that they're not just pushing for competition. They want esports to be enjoyed by as many people as possible. They're not driving for it to be this elitist thing where only the very, very best get to do esports. They're trying to include as many people as they possibly can. That's the British Esports Association. That's the final one in sort of our not-for-profit / government-y companies. In future videos, what we're going to look at is we're going to start looking at tournament providers, organisations that reside in the UK, and other supporting profit organisations that operate in the UK esports scene, which will be a little bit different to this, probably a bit less website based and a bit more sort of talking about what they actually do and how they all flow into each other. So I hope you've enjoyed this third video in Unit 1. As I've been constantly saying, please, any feedback is appreciated, or even if you enjoyed the video, just give us a like or put a comment below saying how it helped you. And if you have any requests for any topics you want me to cover as soon as possible, let me know as well. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.